I don't think I intend to push marriage on guys like I used to. I told you I was gonna drop a bombshell. I don't think I'm gonna push marriage like that. I still believe in marriage. I believe marriage is a flawless institution. But I've seen so much success to where it's difficult for that to taint my image of marriage. But I have to understand that there's a lot of men who haven't seen that. This is Caesar Walker, the cool, calm, collected one.
And I'm Ronnie Gatry, the emotional one.
And we are the Tipping Point Podcast, your source for the black male's perspective.
Tipping Point Podcast.
Now, let me share with you where I'm coming from.
Okay, Coach Adams.
That was good. That was a good one. Do you know what he's talking about?
No, I was going to Google it later. I really was, though.
He was referring to a clip we discussed last week. And those of you who listen, if you consume a lot of content online, there's a YouTube channel called Valuetainment. And they have several different channels. I think this one, I forget the host, but they had a debate on is you remember the question, is marriage?
I just remember the outcome.
It was basically on, is marriage necessary for men today? And it featured a lady on the panel. I forget her name, but she was married. Also does like content on OnlyFans. You had Hafiz from the Roommates, and then you had Coach Greg Adams. And Coach Greg Adams is from kind of like the Manosphere Red Pill space, and he kind of talks to, he deals with men who've gone through divorce, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Hafiz runs a channel, Roommates. It's basically, I mean, they have a lot of followers, but it's similar to like type of content we do. And so the conversation got on the marriage, and I'm not going to lament long on like how it went, but it got into much of the conversations in the subsequent weeks. Even this week was from guys in Red Pill spaces, pretty much just like Hafiz was like he was like a Thanksgiving turkey. Like they just kept eating off of him in terms of content. And so talking points, how the debate went, all that sort of thing. And so I was thinking about it because I still believe in marriage. I believe marriage is a flawless institution. So it's not that my thoughts on marriage has changed. But, you know, I'm always the person who's talked about how your behavior is a derivative of your values. Your values are a derivative of your environment, personal experiences, influential people, repetitions. Like I talk about that a lot. And so when I think about my values, I grew up in a pretty conservative home, Christian home. I think next year, my parents will celebrate 50 years of marriage. Wow. Right? So I've seen 50 years of two people who are not only just, because now me and my sister are grown. We 40 plus. If it wasn't working, they could have been with their separate ways. But man, they going strong. My in-laws, not too far behind them. You met my in-laws. Talk to my father-in-law.
Great couple.
They not too far behind them. I look at my friends. I think of my friends who are married. I think most of my friends, people who I call friends, they've been married for many years. I only have two friends who are married who have not been married. No, they're married under 10 years.
Oh.
And that's going to change next year.
Okay.
One of my homeboys, he hits 10 in a few months. The other one next year sometime. We all got married within a year of each other. 13, 14, 16. I'm talking about guys who've been married. So I've seen marriage. I talk about my pastor a lot. He's been married for years. Influent men who's had a profound impact on me. They've been married. They're married. like long, like, you know what I mean? And successful marriages. And I see the women they married to, respectable women, right? So for me, when I think about marriage, and we've talked about conversations about marriage in the past, when I think about marriage, I'm speaking from my environment, my experiences, influential people. I've seen marriage work. I've seen it look desirable. I've seen it be modeled well. I know there's a lot of failure out there. That's not lost on me. But I've seen so much success to where it's difficult for that to taint my image of marriage. But I have to understand that there's a lot of men who haven't seen that. Your value and your attitude towards marriage may be different based on what you've experienced, based on your environment, based on what you're hearing, right? And I think about today. I think about society today. Society isn't the same society that it was years ago when marriage was a thing. Like you think about, bro, I was thinking about this. You remember when I caught a lot of flack for saying women need men?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know what's so crazy? No one gave me flack for saying men need women. No one got mad about that. Think about that.
Yeah, I'm going back. I think you're right.
Who complained about me saying men need women? I had men had a problem with me saying women need men. Guys, I know. So if we're telling women that they don't need a man, but you're telling men you need a woman, how does that build healthy? How are those two going to relate to one another? How are you going to build healthy relationships when you're basically telling one side that the other side is expendable or not necessary or doesn't add value? How you expect those two to come together in this climate and build healthy relationships? Then we've talked about this. We actually had what's your brother's name? Alpha, who came on.
Malik Thomas.
Partly. Malik.
Yeah.
He talked about it, but I'll elaborate. Women have developed a lot of masculine traits. In order to go out in this world and be independent, be successful, be on their own, thrive in business, thrive successfully, you're still feminine on the outside, but you got a lot of masculine software downloaded. It's true.
I know, but the way you put that.
You got a lot of masculine software on the inside.
Okay.
And so you've become a great guy.
Oh, wow.
And great men make not so great wives. It's just the reality of the matter. We talked about it before the podcast. I'm just being real. I'm telling you why I'm shifting. We had an argument, a debate. It got pretty spicy with a female off record, not on the pod, about the word submission. You can't even say submission around certain women. She had a problem with us using biblical talking points talking about submission. And she's a Christian. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right. I heard the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking about the women who are the very thing that helps to support successful marriages. You're hearing some Christian women. So if I see men, and then you have no fault divorce now. The laws have changed.
Goodness gracious.
Now you can come home. I'm just not happy. You ain't getting beat on. You know nobody cheating on you. You're just not happy. And we've seen how men have got cleaned up in court over alimony, child support, all that. In this climate, and we have a society that's not really encouraging or nurturing an environment for people to come together and be interdependent and leverage each other's strengths and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not fostering that environment. And I'm not saying all women are like that, but what I am saying is I'm seeing too many examples of this for myself after listening to a lot of single men. I've been listening to a lot of single men and I've been paying attention. I've been watching. I've been observing. I've been listening to certain things I've heard certain women say. And I'm like, you know what? I think I've been in my own little echo chamber for a little while. And I'm not too quick to push something on men when they're in a climate that doesn't look anything like what I'm acclimated, my friends are acclimated. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So I have to kind of back up and kind of recalibrate how I talk to brothers about the whole marriage thing. And that debate has kind of helped me to kind of like really take a step back, because I can talk about, you can get a prenup, you can get this and that, but what about them kids? I ain't got nothing about the kids.
Right. Yeah.
If you got children and y'all get a divorce, I don't know what protections there are. I know we had Shank on, and she said men need to know their
Jefferson County, odds are stacked against you.
You even said it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I think it would be disingenuous for me to ignore that, Gatry.
Yeah, that's real.
Like, what do you think about this? Because, you know, again, I've been champion marriage, and I still champion marriage, because I'm gonna share some things about if dudes are interested in marriage. I will share some things with them, but this whole Black, you need to get married. I don't know anymore.
Right.
I don't really know. But what do you think? Because you know my stance on this. So what do you make of that?
The energy it gives me off the top is just, it takes me back to when you had a similar, what term am I looking for? Realization that even your faith journey is not the same as everyone else's. So you developed a lot of empathy, compassion, and reshaped how you approach those conversations with people. Me being one of those people, right?
Right.
So it's got the same energy. So I got to give you credit and respect, because you don't get there if you're not listening.
Yeah, man.
You know, so I'm gonna start there. But yeah, I can remember. I don't know if it was that same recording, but you know where I was coming from with it. Like, if someone asks me about marriage, I'm giving you the raw, and I'm giving you the bad stuff first. Because that's the stuff I want brothers to know if they ask me.
Yeah.
Like, because some people can sensationalize it. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I love being married. And marriage has some of the highest highs that any relationship can have. But man, some of them lows, but some of the lowest too.
Yeah.
So, but getting back into like the details of the mechanics of your viewpoint, it's crazy. Malik and I were talking earlier this week, and I shared with him a story that a young lady had shared. Well, she's not young; she's our age. But long story short, this is a woman who had downloaded the mail software. Gosh, that sounded so strange to say, but to
accurate
to continue
AF.
the narrative. Yeah. She was focused in her career. She was climbing the ladder. You know what I'm saying? Like, she had put a lot of emphasis on that. And now, we're 40. And so she was sharing to me, like, she's at a point in her life now to where, like, she's questioning some of those decisions, because relationship opportunities she had along the way were stifled because she'd already developed a mindset. Right?
Yeah.
So it kind of took the wind out of me to hear her say towards the end of this conversation that she would give everything up just to have that man in her life in that capacity. So to me, it proves your point right.
Yeah.
And this is not me bashing women. So let me say that again.
I mean, we're not doing it.
But think about the landscape walker.
Listen.
We're in a time to where female empowerment, woman empowerment is high.
Listen, Gat, I agree with you 100%. But this is the thing. This is why we talk about how men can be fragile. For how many years have men been hearing we ain't SHIT?
You still hearing it?
A man comes on YouTube.
Y'all don't smile.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
That man you about to say, he talked about people smiling.
Right.
Oh.
A man went on YouTube in a suit each night and turned the mirror back on women for 2 years, and women had a come apart. A come apart. Can't stand them. Okay. Well, we ain't in y'all face telling you how much we can't stand Oprah and the Terry McMillans and the Waiting to Exhales.
That was a good movie, though.
Did you pay attention to the men in that movie?
Yeah.
We got dragged in that movie.
We did.
Up and down
We did.
for hours.
Right.
It was a horror story if you're a male. That should be playing on Halloween. Am I lying? Like, this is a horror story. If we ain't gay, we cheating left and right, we can't have sex, we fat, we like,
Right.
my God.
We don't have any equality.
Meanwhile, all the women got it going on.
Right.
All the women just, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, okay. But then we start showing you our issues. Because we have our challenges with the opposite sex. And the real issue, man, is that, and one of the things I want to do with the podcast, Gat, is I want to bring women on and we just start talking about these things. And get to a point to where we're listening, she's listening, and we're at least getting somewhere.
Growth.
If we can start having these conversations and then a light comes on, hopefully for both, but especially in her, because again, women aren't hearing this. They're not hearing men speak comfortably about their issues. That's why when I said what I said earlier, I know it triggered some folks. I know it probably triggers whoever. If you're a female, I probably triggered you. Nothing my intent. I don't get off on that. But you're not hearing men be honest and real with you. You're just not. You're not hearing it. So when you do hear it, it comes off as hate. But what I've been lamenting is what men have been speaking about in our barbershops, at the bar, on phone conversations with other dudes for years. And and this is now with YouTube podcasts, we have an opportunity and a microphone to finally speak on it. So we're going to talk about it. But the reality of the matter is we're in a day and time where it's, and you can argue things with white supremacy and things that have happened with policy, things that have happened in our community, but we broke up this whole family thing. It's too many individuals in our community and less families. And we were at our best when there were families. But when I look at how our society is shaped today, how do we get back there? And I don't want to send them to the buzzsaw. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see dudes get their heads knocked off because you dating someone who doesn't respect biblical principles, feel like she can have as much sex as she wants, who's probably a feminist, got issues with, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a recipe. Let alone he got challenges of his own he got to deal with, but you just gonna compound them?
Right.
I'm hesitant, Gat. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong, Walker. You do raise a good question in terms of like, what is our responsibility? You know, like we're on the, I don't want to even say good side, but we're on one side of this. We're advocates for it. We talk about it a lot on this podcast. So like, how can we functionally spread that good news without saying, oh, you got to, and I think it comes with the format that we're in. We're talking openly about what we're going through.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's been balanced, right?
Yeah.
We talked about some shortcomings. We talked about some triumphs.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So.
I mean, that's all it is. I mean, it's not. And one of the things I give you a lot of reprieve because we talked about this offline. One of the reasons I would push back when you would be real and honest is I'm like, yeah, you're scaring the hell out of these guys.
And I took that after the fact. You were right because I was harsh. But continue on though.
But the fear is real, like, and this is something I've had to come to. The fear is real. It's not like that. You know how you can be afraid of something that's not really a thing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
your friend or loved one got to let you see, hey, what you're fearing, that's either anxiety, that's either something you're dealing with, what you're afraid of. Like, people don't want to hear me talk, but people love to hear you talk. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, you're afraid, but what are you really afraid of?
Right.
What I'm seeing men be concerned about are legitimate. Like, it's documented. Like, you can see. You can look at documentation to see where guys are losing in a divorce, right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, that can happen. Like one day it was all good, and then the next day you get hit.
Right.
You get served. I don't know what to tell you.
Keep Your Point Podcast.